Hey everyone, this is Jordan Romano, and welcome to the Phillies Show.
Hey, Ruben Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury, Todd Zalecki, brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. It's the Phillies Show. It's Thursday, December 19th, 2024. Hope everybody is doing well. Ruben, you're doing well, right? You got the...
I'm grooving, man. I'm grooving.
It's groovy, baby. Groovy.
It's groovy.
How are you guys doing good?
Yeah.
Jim, you look like you are thrilled. Look at you. Look at that energy. You're on fire.
I'm having a cup of stress.
Are you having a cocktail?
No, I'm having a cup of stress relief tea.
Oh,
yogi
nice.
tea.
Are you feeling stressed?
No, but I kind of like the herbal flavor and the fumes or whatever you call them. It's very soothing.
It is the holidays.
I like to soothe with bourbon, Jim.
Well, I'm having a little herbal tea, no caffeine.
Well, you're a better man than I.
But I'm always thrilled to be with you, gentlemen.
Yeah, it's
same.
Fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's the holidays. Baseball's still going on. Phillies don't have much going on, but
no.
They will at some point. So the other day on all of our social media channels, almost all of them, I put it out there, asking for questions from our viewers, our listeners, our fans, Phillies fans. We got a bunch, and they kind of focused on one thing, which is what in the heck is going on with this team? When are they going to do something? So let's start here. Why can't we get a trade done? It seems like we have good offers on these rumored trades. That's from T Montgomery 10 on Instagram. Do you guys have any feelings on why they can't get a trade done? Ruben, you can speak to that better than anybody. I'm sure you've been wanting to make some trades in the past and you just couldn't get it done. What's going on right now?
I think that's probably a combination of things. I think one of the things is that it's difficult to match up sometimes. I mean, the beauty is always in the eye of the beholder, and but I think that there's a bigger issue here as far as trades are concerned. To me, in this day and age, no GM wants to be hoodwinked. They're extremely careful about, like, at the end of the day, they don't want to get beaten on a trade. And there's an ego thing. They have to talk. They have to, they have to answer to their bosses. There's a social media aspect of, oh, I can't believe they made that move. And why did you make that move? That's ridiculous. That guy, that's too good of a prospect. I mean, how do you give that prospect package up for that guy? Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody's got an opinion about it, and it's so far out there as far as the social media is concerned that it's gotten to the point of ridiculousness. I always believe that you make a trade to try to be equitable to both teams. And if you can do that and you can find a way to be equitable and get a trade done that helps both teams, then you make a trade. I mean, it's sort of simple as that. And it's not about beating the other guy. It's not trying to hoodwink anybody. It's about trying to do what's best for your organization. And that's how I used to operate. And so I would try to give talent for talent. And so I think that there is a reluctance to do something unless you feel like, there's a money aspect to it where you have to dump a guy, or there's a prospect situation where, I mean, they're so highly coveted now, the prospects, and most of the prospects don't ever become anything.
Right.
What's amazing is there's very few prospects that ever really become great players, because prospects are prospects, and guys who are in the major leagues performing, they're performers, and they are doing their job. So there's a lot of different things that are going on right now, and part of them is, one, GMs don't want to be hoodwinked, and two, or they don't want to be embarrassed, and two, the level of covet as far as prospects are concerned is beyond imagination. They put numbers on this that are just off the charts ridiculous, and the truth of the matter is most of those damn prospects don't ever get to the big leagues or make an impact.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's what the Phillies are facing, in my opinion, in terms of them not yet making a trade. And I'm going to say they probably still will before Clearwater. There's still winter left, time to get things done. I think they have a finite amount of trade capital because their big league roster is very locked in terms of age, salaries, contracts that might be immovable, and they're going to be very protective. And their core and the big leagues getting older, so they're protective of their prospects, their upper tier prospects. So they want to start moving them in maybe as soon as next year. So the pieces that they can actually move are limited. When you have limited pieces, there's less that appeals to other teams. And everything that might come back is expensive in terms of financial commitment. And the Phillies have had such big outlays in previous winters with the $300 million deals, with the payroll starting to push up against the 301 fourth luxury tax. It feels like the payroll is tight.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like they want to keep a handle on their upper tier prospects. That creates a limited amount of guys you're willing to trade, and there's not a big appetite to take back a lot of money. So that limits you getting the right guy back, and I think that's one of the reasons maybe we're seeing some of the inaction as they wait for the right deal that fits all of those categories. You know, from the prospect you have to give up, or the big league you have to give up, to what you have to take back. So they're really like, it feels like, nobody's told me this, I'm just putting things together, listening to David Dombrowski talk. It feels like they're kind of walking on a razor blade.
Yeah. You know, this is kind of segues into this next question from Tigro Tony on X. How could the Phillies not be involved or interested in a Cody Bellinger? Guy strikes out less than 100 times a year. He has power, high on base, good defender in a position of need. How do the Yankees get him for a middle reliever? And to me, when I look, now he hits left-handed. Maybe they didn't want another left-handed bat on there. But that trade, when I saw the Cubs also kicked in $5 million. Cody Bellinger next season is going to make $27.5 million. To me, that might indicate that the payroll's a big deal. You know, like right now, Fangraphs projects the Phillies payroll to be around $289 million. That's over the third luxury tax. So you add on a Cody Bellinger, and now you're $10 million past the fourth luxury tax threshold, right? About that. And now you're paying about $51 million in penalties, you know, once you blow about $10 million past that fourth luxury tax at 301. So I'm not saying that that's why they didn't want Cody Bellinger. Again, maybe they didn't want another left-handed bat in the lineup. Maybe they didn't like the player. Maybe they see a guy who's too up and down. But when you see the Yankees give up a kind of a middle reliever, swing guy type guy, and get $5 million back as well, it goes, maybe the payroll is a little bit of a bigger deal than the Phillies are letting on. And of course, they're not going to say, yeah, we're not. That's a crippling issue for us.
I think it was a combination of things. I think it was probably the money, one, and I think that two, maybe that outlay is not worth it for that player. And I think you're absolutely right, Jim. I think you hit it right on the head. I mean, there's a lot of issues going on. They've already thrown out a ton of money. This team has to perform because they put money into really good players, and the really good players do have to perform, especially when it's time to perform, which is in the playoffs, which they have not done as well as they have in total over the last 3 years. So you like to see them obviously performing at the right time. And I think money's a real issue here. I think you're right, Todd. I think it's you can't call the Phillies cheap, but the well is not unending. I mean, at some point you have to turn off the faucet. And you have to hope that the guys that are there right now do what they're supposed to do. And the guys that are growing, the Stotts and the Bohms and all of those other guys, the Kirkerings, they have to step forward and they have to be guys and they have to continue to improve. And you sort of hope that happens. I mean, there's tweaks and there's some things they're going to do. I guarantee you they're not going in into the spring training with the team that they have right now. That's not going to happen. I'll eat that shoe that you broke out there, Jim. If they actually do that, I guarantee you that they're going to make some moves. There's no question about it. I think they have to make the right moves, and they have to be precise. And I think you're right. I think, listen, they don't want to have to, once they have to start replacing some of these guys, the older guys that are expiring contracts, the Castellanos of the world, the JT Realmutos of the world. Once those contracts expire, they have to have people step up and be those guys and to take over in a cheap way and a young way and a controllable way. And I think that the Aiden Millers and the Andrew Painters and hopefully multiples of those types of players, the Crawfords of the world, are going to have to step forward and be those guys, because you just can't survive continuously buying and buying and buying. It's just not going to happen.
They're going to have a good season because they have good personnel, barring catastrophic injuries. And if they're going to get where they want to go, and we know where they want to go, a deep October championship, they're going to get where they want to go. It ain't going to be with, and I do think they're going to make tweaks before Clearwater. I agree. They're not going to have the same team. There will be different guys. But if they're going to get where they want to go, it's not going to be with that tweak or two. It's going to be with the big guns that are already here. I said the same thing at the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be with, and they didn't get where they wanted to go because only one big gun really performed, Harper, in the postseason. Wheeler as well, but bullpen let them down, the offense let them down. They have the personnel. That personnel needs to perform. Stott is huge. He needs, we have some intelligence now that his elbow was hurting. He's a good baseball player. They need more out of him. Need improvement. They need more consistency from Turner. You get that, and your lineup's already going to be better. And I do think, they'll get somebody in left field. I don't know, maybe the Taylor Ward or somebody like that might be a fit.
It could be a Mark Canna. It could be somebody like that. I mean, it could just be a piece that they can rely on that can help stretch out that lineup a little bit. But you're right about that, Jim. I mean, big boys have to step forward and they have to perform, and the young guys too.
For sure. So, Ruben, you mentioned Bohm. A couple questions on Bohm. Not a surprise here because he's been out there forever. Ken Rosenthal of Fair Territory and of the Athletics said he thinks he is going to get traded at some point. A couple questions. Do you think the Phillies are overvaluing Bohm? That's from Owen Swozo on X. If the Phillies do move Bohm, what are the realistic options to replace him at third base? That's from Sean Francis 8 on Instagram. Is he being overvalued? Who replaces him? And that's the other thing too. Everybody's like, yeah, we got to play Bohm. Get a starting pitcher. We're like, okay, who's playing third base? And then who's playing left field?
Dave Dombrowski's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. He's listening and he's thinking about and trying to make maneuvers to make this team better some way, shape, or form. That doesn't mean you're getting rid of Alec Bohm. This is not the exercise. I know that the fans like to talk about, we got to get rid of this guy, or we got to get rid of. Guess what, guys? He's exactly what they need in their lineup because he makes contact, he drives and runs, he does a lot of great things. And there's a lot of people who would think about, the last, month of the season on this guy. What about the first 4 years and 3 months or 6 months or 5 months of what he did? This is a good baseball player who's improved defensively. He's not a Gold Glove third baseman, but he is not a liability anymore. He's really improved there. He's gained a lot of confidence there. Bobby Dickerson's done a nice job with him. He drives and runs. He uses the whole field. Is he a perennial all-star? I don't know about that, but he was an all-star this year. Mm-hmm. And so who do you replace the guy with? That's a huge deal. And who do you get for him? If you're going to trade the guy, you better get knocked on your ass with a big deal because this guy is still under control for 2 years, and he's a damn good baseball player. did he have some attitude things going on last year at the end of the year? Did he did he not look like the player that you sort of wanted to have a guy look like? Maybe. But you know what? He can grow up some.
Yeah.
He can make some attitude adjustments. He can learn and deal with some of the failures that he had to deal with. And this is a really good ball player, man. This is a really good ball player. And you just don't get rid of these guys just for the sake of getting rid of them or for the sake of change. This is too good of a baseball player to do that.
That's why their ask is high. You know, he's like their best trade chip. They got to aim high. I mean, I heard the report about the two top of the rotation Seattle guys. I don't know if that's true. I did hear from somebody who told me it's not really true, but I don't know. I haven't reported it because I don't know it to be true. But they're aiming high, but I don't know who replaces them. Sosa, Sosa's a utility guy and a good one, but he needs to be in that role or else he gets overexposed. Everybody has a role. His role is not the everyday guy at third base. He can give you 3 weeks. He can give you a couple days a week here and there, but I think that would be a step back. And I think obviously Bregman and the Arenado are out there, and that's when those guys find landing spots. Maybe you'll see the ball market tick up a little bit, but those guys come with huge price tags, and we just finished talking about how we think the payroll is impacting all this. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, Arenado, I guess it was reported on Wednesday that he had exercised his no trade clause to avoid a trade with the Astros. And according to the report on MLB.com, the Cardinals were willing to send the Astros $15 to $20 million as part of the pay down for Arenado, which is a big chunk of change. But that gives you an idea. You talk about potential replacements. I mean, Arenado doesn't mean he's not going to go to Houston or that deal doesn't end up changing or, end up happening. But, Arenado could fall off the board. And
you still got to pay prospects for him, too, if Philadelphia's in play. And that's tough. I mean,
especially if you're going to have to pay him down. And that they're going to have to pay him down so heavily. And then there's that balance. I mean, now you got to give prospects and, the deal with the money. I mean, it's a lot, and it's not easy. And it's not easy to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. Believe me, everybody thinks, trades are just done. There's a lot of crap going on, guys. and people have to understand that.
And if Arenado was about to go to the Astros, what does that tell you about Bregman's asking price? If the Astros like, man, we're moving on. That tells me that they don't think that they can afford him, or that they just don't want to. They just don't want to afford him. Maybe that's
and no disrespect to these players, but the people that think that guys like I don't know, Weston Wilson or even Cody Clemens can be an everyday third baseman, they're wrong. They're not. That's not their role. That's not what they do. Can they hang in there for a little while? You mentioned Edmundo Sosa. I mean, he would probably be the only guy who could do it. But these guys are not everyday third basemen. Being an everyday third baseman in the major leagues is a big deal, and neither one of not one of those guys on this roster, if Bohm is gone, can do that job.
Well, remember last year when Trey went down, Edmundo Sosa played shortstop. He was unbelievable for a few weeks, and everybody was like, "This guy put Trey in center field, or make Sosa the everyday shortstop, or vice versa, or put Sosa out in center and put Trey." And then what happened? Sosa came back to earth, and I'm a big Edmundo Sosa fan.
Real good player in his role. Great player in his role.
Absolutely. Do you think? I know what your answer is going to be, guys, but I'm going to ask it anyway, just because it's a question that was asked. Eagles 44 on Blue Sky wants to know: do you think the Phillies should trade Ranger? Odds are he isn't signing here long term. I don't know if you guys saw this, but on Monday, Scott Boras Corporation put out a little Instagram story saying, "Welcome aboard, Ranger Suarez." So Ranger is part of the Boras Corp.
You know what? When I saw that, I decided, I'd be open-minded on Ranger, depending on the return. Now, you're going to be short in the rotation, but depending on how you can fill it. But when I saw he signed with Scott Boras, there's no way in hell I'm trading him, because Boras is going to keep him so focused in calendar year, season 2025. his walk year. Boris is going to keep him focused, going to keep him hydrated, going to keep him eating right, going to keep him working out, going to make sure he's keeping his back in good shape, and he's going to be in his ear, motivating him and having all the mental guidance and everything, locked in on having a good year and a big payday. So I am keeping Ranger Suarez and banking that, he goes on a humongo salary drive.
Big heater, 2025.
Jim, you're right smack dab on the nose. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
I think I've said it publicly about wanting this guy to pitch in this 1-year contract because he'd be the most motivated guy on the planet. This guy wheels off 190 innings and 18 to 20 wins, and he's going to sign a deal like Max Fried or something like it. And that's the motivation for both Scott Boras and Ranger Suarez.
Don't you think Scott's influence is going to be a positive?
No question about it.
Oh yeah.
No question. I love it because it's
Scott employs his own team of mental skills.
Oh, he's got the whole program.
He has his nutrition guys. He has his stretching guys. He has his fitness guys. He's got all the bases covered. And Ranger, I think
Scott's
a good move.
There's a reason why a lot of players go to Scott, and it's not just because he gets guys big paydays. But I think I've talked about this with people. Like if my son was ever a first-round draft pick material, and they're like, "Would you let Scott Boras represent?" I'm like, "Yeah, I would. If Scott made the pitch and my son was comfortable, 100% I would let Scott Boras represent my son." I mean, he's gonna probably get him a lot of money, and you need to get it while you can. While you can. So I agree with you guys 100%. Do not trade Ranger Suarez. So there's some bigger picture questions. Is this team trending toward running it back? That's from Michael Braggading on X. Do you think the Phillies are viewing this as a transitional year? That's from Michael Stark on Blue Sky. Some other parts of that question, but I don't know if they're going to run it back. I still think I agree with both of you guys. I think they're going to get something done. They're going to make some more moves before Clearwater. Maybe we're sitting here on February 12th, February 13th. We're in Clearwater and we're saying, wow, I can't believe the only thing they got was Jordan Romano, but I would be very, very surprised if that was the case.
Me too. I think.
Yeah, that's not a transitional year. I mean, they're trying to win trophies, man.
Yeah.
They're trying to win trophies. And they're going to do what they're going to do what they need, what they feel they need to do within their budget and within their, reasoning as far as not giving up their future. And so they've got a really good team. If you looked at the power rankings right now and you started talking about the pundits and the people that make decisions, this is still a top 5 team in baseball.
Right.
Top 5 team in baseball, baby. As far as overall talent, if you ask any GM on the planet, would you take this team? And you would say, yes, I would absolutely take this team because it's a damn good team. Mm-hmm. But they're going to have to perform, and it's not easy to win.
Yeah, you don't have transition years. I'm sorry, I think I stepped on you, Ruben. You don't have transition years when you have a $300 million payroll. And Bryce Harper's head would pop off if they told him, well, we're having a transition year. I know how bad you want that World Series.
So would John Middleton's.
Yeah.
they want to win a trophy. They got some challenges, but the personnel still, like Dave Dombrowski said, you got to play well at the right time.
Yeah.
And they haven't played well at the right time.
And they got to make some adjustments. They got to make some adjustments in their.
And they got to be better during the season. I mean, they got to be better during the season going into the playoffs. They were a 500 team after June 11th. Yeah, that's troubling, but they're better than that. They just they need to be more consistent. Maybe play with a little more urgency, and maybe have a little more edge. I mean, I think sometimes, and I hope this comes out. I think sometimes it's good to play on the edge. And when you get that big lead, they weren't on the edge all the time. I think it's difference between playing on the edge and being on edge. But being pushed a little bit more next year might not be the worst thing for them.
They might be better from behind than from ahead. I mean, in a lot of ways. I mean, you look at the 22 and 23, they sort of played from behind, right? Underdogs. They were the guys.
They got
got
the
out
bad
to the early
starts.
lead. They got off the great lead last year, and they kind of coasted on in because nobody really pushed them. The team, Atlanta was hurt, and the Mets weren't that great, but they got better, and they got some mojo going, and that's the reason why they got beat in the playoffs, because they had a little bit more mojo working, and they made the adjustments that were necessary, and the Phillies didn't.
Right. Bo, a couple questions about free agents. If you guys have a name, Bo9292 on Instagram, Weightman Stats on Instagram want to know top free agent you think the Phillies will sign at this point. Is there a name that, I'm not necessarily saying is it going to be an Alex Bregman, but is there a guy that, Ruben, you mentioned Mark Canha. That was a name I thought maybe could fill into that spot in left field. I mean, that's not going to get anybody excited, of course, but
no.
But talking about free agents, like does Teoscar Hernandez, Anthony Santander, get you guys excited? Does that either of those two guys make sense?
Yeah, I mean, they're both looking for big paydays, and they both cost draft picks. So I just don't know. I mean, I'll say something here that it won't excite people at all, and they'll be like, running it back. But what if a guy like Estevez stays out there for a while and will take a 1-year deal?
Right. I jump at that.
It doesn't really get you excited, but
that gives them some more depth. I'll take it. I mean, it'll make them better. And listen. If I wanted to pluck somebody that I thought was semi-realistic, it'd be Tanner Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Tanner Scott's still out there, unless I've missed something. He's still out there, and he's good looking for a big payday, but who knows? Maybe he ends up doing a pillow contract that he doesn't get like that 6-year deal or 4-year deal or 5-year deal, whatever the hell he wants. I love pitching. I love to err on the side of pitching. And if they can't do anything with their left fielder and center fielder, and they have to live with those two guys or live with some combination of those guys, then add to pitching, because pitching wins.
Right. And going back to like the payroll stuff, maybe and again, I'm not saying they were interested in Cody Bellinger, but maybe they weren't interested in blowing past that 4th luxury tax for Cody Bellinger. But maybe for a right-handed bat that they feel really comfortable about, that they could get in a trade or they could get via free agency, maybe for that player, they go, okay, we'll take this huge penalty in taxes and go for that player. So it's not to say that they won't blow past that number.
Well, the only guy for me would be Bregman. I mean, if you're really good, that would be the guy for me, because he fits so well with what they're trying to do. I think that that type of hitter, that side of the plate, championship caliber player. He's got rings, the whole 9 yards. This is a baseball rat. This is, the kind of player you want on your team. He fits all those things. He doesn't necessarily fit the budget because he's such a good player. I mean, the guy's going to command over $200 million. It's as simple as that. I don't think that they're ready to do that.
And you have a third baseman who we don't know for sure is going to be moved. I wonder if Bregman might go play second base in Boston.
That'd be a great call for them. I mean, he could be a Gold Glover at second, short, or third for me. I've watched him at shortstop for a long time at LSU. I know what he can do. He is a brilliant fielder. He'll make himself a great a Gold Glover, because that's who he is. Shoot. I mean, in a perfect world, I'd sign the guy and put him at second, move Turner to center field, and move Stott to short. Let's go. I mean, listen, that's very unrealistic. But I mean, if I can wave a wand and do that, I think that would make this team a brilliant team.
Right. So Dave was asked again last week at the winter meetings. Todd was there. I was there, about moving Turner, and he was kind of absolute in October when it came up. He did at this point say you never say never, but also indicated they're not ready to do it now. But I see that move to left field happening at some point during his time in Philadelphia. Another reason why I think, and I don't think Aiden Miller is necessarily untouchable. Like, in the right deal, depending on the right opportunity, who you might get back. But I think chances of him being dealt are very, very slim. And the uncertainty on the left side of the diamond, possibly moving Turner to the outfield someday, not now, but someday. Alec Bohm possibly being traded. That uncertainty on the left side of the diamond, even if Bohm's not traded, he's only 2 more years of control.
2 more years, yeah.
That uncertainty on the left side of the diamond is why I think one of the reasons of being so protective of Miller.
Yeah, you gotta keep that in mind. I mean, yeah, Bohm doesn't. You're right, Jim. But Bohm doesn't get traded 2 years from now. He leaves as free.
Yeah,
Aiden Miller's the man.
Yeah, Aiden Miller's a guy, right? Yeah, so I agree. It would have to be a very special player for me to move Aiden Miller based off of everything. Everybody who's been evaluating talent for decades has said about this guy. They think he's going to.
He could be their Alex Bregman. He could be their Alex Bregman. Yeah, that's who I view him as. That would be my comp. If he becomes a player that the people think that he can become, he could be that guy.
It reminds me of this story, Ruben. You were there in the front office years ago when I think it was the A's were calling, or they wanted Chase, right? Mm-hmm. For maybe Chase and Cole, but definitely Chase for who?
They wanted Madsen too.
Zito, right? It was Zito. They wanted
Chase and Madsen.
Yep. Chase and Madsen. There you go. And man, that worked out well.
Some of the best trades you make are the ones you don't make.
Exactly. And if those people in the Phillies front office really believe that guy is special, then you want to hold on to him.
Yeah.
Then you want to hold on.
Like Ruben said, best trades one you don't make. I think Ryan Madsen was such an important. His emergence and his ascension was so important to that 2018. It was like in August of 2008, he became an assassin. And he was such a difference maker, gave them such another big weapon in that bullpen, such a huge part of that championship team.
He went from becoming like being a 4th or 5th starter to being an assassin in the bullpen. And you're absolutely right. And he helped us win a World Series.
Ruben, were you guys absolutely 100% convinced Chase was going to be a star player when that stuff was going down?
Yes.
I mean, like, there wasn't maybe not, where you were 100% sure that this guy, Chase Utley, was going to be a star player.
I mean, you can never be 100% sure, but you knew that this guy was going to figure out. I remember having a discussion with my dad about, when if you remember, at one point, because we traded Scott Rowland, we moved him to third base that one year, and he played third base in Lehigh Valley, jumping. He didn't even play. He never played in Reading. Yep. He went from Clearwater to Lehigh. It was Scranton. Yeah. Went to Scranton. We put him at third base. In his first, several weeks, he's made a ton of throwing errors. And I remember telling my dad, can this guy play third base? Is he going to be able to play defense in the big leagues? And he said, son, don't you worry about Chase Utley. He will be fine. Just let him play. He'll be fine. If he needs to play third base, he'll be fine. If he needs to play second base, he'll be fine. And he's right, because he knew that Chase would do everything in his power to be as good of a player as he could possibly be wherever he played. And he was right, dead. I'm not going to say it. Dead on.
Mm-hmm.
Dead nuts.
Dead nuts on.
And that's the thing about Aiden Miller. If these guys in the Phillies front office think he is going to be a Chase Utley type or a Alex Bregman type, then I don't know if I want to put him in a trade for Nolan Arenado or somebody who's been showing some signs of decline over the past few years.
Amen, brother.
And he's going to make 700 or 800,000 as a rookie.
Exactly right.
And they need to have that. Those types of salaries starting to mix in and give you payroll balance.
Right. Ruben, you kind of touched on this one. I don't know if this is a follow-up. Is a Mike Trout trade possible? That's from Ryan Davis 38 on Instagram. If so, what would that trade look like?
That would look like the Angels giving the Phillies every amount. I don't know what is owed, $300 million still.
Yeah,
the Phillies would have to get
200, I think, 220 maybe.
The Phillies would have to get 200 of the 200 million, 220 million back to make a trade with them. That's as simple as I would do that.
Right.
I would do that because the player's not available. He's hurt all the time, and you can't take that risk. Not that those numbers. Everybody wants to fall in line. And listen. Mike Trout is a Hall of Famer, amazing player. He's hurt. He doesn't play. If they want to pay him all the way down and we dump like a decent prospect on him, I'm in.
Sure.
Otherwise, I'm out.
Right. And that's what some people from the
It's not happening.
Last spring.
It's not gonna happen.
I think it was maybe even last spring somebody kicked around the idea of a Trout trade. So the guy's hurt all the time. Love him, but he's hurt all the time.
If he's owed $225 million or $220 million, if they pay 190 of it and we have to pay 30 of it for like the next, I don't know, was it 4 or 5 more years?
Yeah.
Then I'm in. Otherwise, I'm out.
Right. Okay. All right. Last question, and this is totally unrelated. I feel like we've covered all the bases of what's been going on and not been going on with the Phillies. Not directly a Phillies question, but what is your best baseball Montreal memory? And Jim cannot say the smoked meat. This is from Phillies fan in Montreal on X.
We have Phillies fans in Montreal. That's awesome.
Yeah, Phillies fans in Montreal.
I love that. If I can give you one of my memories,
Sure.
I got a chance. I think it was in 1993 when we were making a run there at the end. Pete Incaviglia went down to a knee injury, I think, just before the series. It was a big series, and we had to win at least 1 or 2 of those games. I think it was it a 4? Can't remember whether it was a 4-game series or a 3-game series towards the end of the year that year.
Okay.
And I got to play, and I was the other platoon, right-handed hitting platoon in left field, other than Milt Thompson. So Milt Thompson and then Pete Incaviglia were the platoon, but Pete went down, so I was the right-handed bat. I drove in a run. I scored another run. I think I stole a base or something, and we ended up winning 2 of those 3 games, or whatever we needed to win to finish off the division, because they were creeping on us. And that was one of my best memories. I mean, Montreal's a phenomenal city. I love it. There's a lot of things, a very, very international type of a city. But for me, baseball-wise, that was one of my favorite memories.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great. One of my favorite cities. I used to go up there as a kid on our youth hockey program would have we'd go on a long weekend and stay with a family, and then they'd come there down to our place the next year. So I love that town. I have a regret about Montreal. I never saw a game at the Montreal Forum. That's a big regret. But I did, I love sports history. And, when the Expos came in, they played at that Jarry Park, which was like a little old minor league stadium that they added on to. And it's a stadium, a ballpark in the middle of like a municipal park. There's basketball courts, swimming pool, walking trails, and there's a baseball field, a baseball stadium. And they made it bigger. So I remember when, seeing it on TV as a kid. So I remember once taking the train up there, the subway with Paul Hagen, and I went up and took the subway up to where Jarry Park is. It's been converted into a tennis stadium now. But that swimming pool beyond right field is still there where Stargell hit that bomb into. And it was really cool to see, they played Major League Baseball in this place. It's in the middle of a neighborhood. And it was, really cool. But so many great memories. And of course, you go out to cover a game, and then you go to Ziggy's, which was a great, fun place on Crescent Street. I may have saw the sun come up there once or twice.
Did you go? Do you ever go to any other establishments there, or just Ziggy's?
It's just Ziggy's. I stayed out of those ones that I think you might be referring to.
Ziggy's the one, Jim, where you go down the steps into the basement. It's a basement bar.
Oh yeah, and the umpires would come there, and it was a lot of fun at Ziggy's. Another time, this is a great story. I don't know if I should. I might have told it already, but once, you know how John Vukovich used to torment Chris Wheeler.
I know this story. Go for it. Yeah.
We were sitting in Fragosi's office before the game doing our pregame interview, and Vukovich walked in and he grabbed Chris Wheeler's loafer, his shoe. and he took it. And the clubhouse in Montreal had this duct work. It was a high ceiling with duct work, exposed ceiling. And Vukovich throws Wheeler's shoe up on the ductwork. It's like 18 feet high. You can't get at it. And they had to call maintenance to come down with a humongous ladder to go up and get the shoe.
He's trying to go in the air.
Oh my gosh!
Like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta go up to the press box. He couldn't go. He's walking around with one shoe. It was very memorable.
Montreal is a great place. That would be awesome if they got baseball back.
What was your favorite memory? I covered the last game there. I had to go cover that game the night they left. That was weird.
Yeah.
What was your favorite memory? No smoked meat, because we used to eat a lot of that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. You know, my memory of Montreal, I've said this before, like one of my favorite parts of the day about being on the beat is kind of like walking into the ballpark every day with like the game day guys are just getting going. You hear guys taking early BP. So I always love that walk up from the subway or the metro, whatever you call it, into the ballpark, going up to the press box. That place was so dingy and beat up by the end, but it had such character to it. So I really loved. It's not why it sounds strange, because I love being in that ballpark, even though I remember that last year at Olympic Stadium, they had the clubhouse floor was linoleum, and it was so beat up. It started to kind of bubble over in some spots. So you would walk. Remember this? So you would walk in the clubhouse, and also you step in, you kind of sink down. I was like, holy crap! There's a bubble about 8 inches high in the middle of this linoleum floor. So I just remember kind of that charming retro character of it. And the thing though that really sticks out for me is that was the first place where I covered a post-game massive blow up by the manager. That was Larry Bohm in 2004. The Phillies lost, I think, like 8 or 9 in a row.
That was the team meeting trip.
That was the team meeting trip where the Phillies had lost 8 or 9 in a row. And afterward, we're outside the clubhouse, and you could just hear Larry Bohm just going ballistic on the players. And so then it ends. We come in, and somebody whoever was on the PR trip with Phillies PR at the time had told Larry that they heard everything that happened outside the door. And so we tried to ask Larry some questions, but I said, only thing I will say is I'm disappointed that we lost this game, or whatever the quote was. And then you went around to the players in the clubhouse, and I remember talking to Mike Liebert, like, Mike, what was going on? He kind of gave me the eyes, and I remember talking to, I think it was Jim Thome or somebody else that played in that game. They go, "You heard that?" Say, "Oh yeah, we heard it.
we heard it. Right.
Oh yeah, we heard it." So that's that's definitely a memory because that was the first real big time post game manager tirade that I had to cover and write about.
I remember, Todd. I remember your story.
Yeah,
I remember because I was home. I wasn't on the trip, but I was meeting the team in New York the next day.
Mm-hmm.
They were flying down to New York, Shea Stadium.
Yeah,
and it continued that weekend. The drama. Anyway, but I remember your story in the Inquirer that day. I remember your lead.
Yeah,
I bet you don't even remember your lead.
I think it was like what, tick 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 boom, because the Larry.
It was great. It was tick tick boom. Something like tick 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 boom.
Yeah, because you could tell Larry was getting frustrated, and it was coming to a head at some point, and they lost that last game in Montreal. Can't remember who was pitching for the Expos that day, but it was a bad loss, and yeah.
I remember one. I do remember one. One quickie. I had a blow up with a writer one time because we had gone. That was the first. I think it was the first series after the spring training, and we were trying to sign. We tried to get Oral Hershiser, and we had him. We were going to overpay him, and we were going to sign him, and we were going to bring him in because we needed another, a veteran arm, maybe a 4th or 5th starter, and we thought we had him, and he ended up going to Cleveland. Or he went he ended
to Cleveland.
No, he didn't go to Cleveland. He didn't go to Cleveland. Went to Giants, I think.
No, he went to Cleveland because I remember talking to him.
No, because I played with him. I played with him in Cleveland. He went back to Cleveland twice.
He went back to Cleveland because they were still in Winter Haven, and I went over and talked to him about why he didn't pick the Phillies.
And it was not And it was, I'm not going to name the writer. He was a writer that kind of rubbed us the wrong way sometimes. But I remember him writing the Phillies being cheap. Another reason why the Phillies didn't get a player is because the Phillies were being cheap. And I blew up on this guy like nobody's business, man. I couldn't handle it because the reality of it was we were paying him more money. We offered him like a lot more money. I don't know, it was like 50% more money. And he decided to go to Cleveland because he felt like Cleveland was like a better chance for him to win or whatever.
That was exactly what it was.
And so, and you know, it had nothing to do with money. He just wanted to go to a different team. It was one of those rare instances where it wasn't about the money. It was really about trying to win again. And when he wrote that, and I was like, dude, we're not lying to you. I said, we literally offered him more money. We could have offered him $1 billion, and he probably wouldn't have freaking gone to the Phillies. Right. And I just remember having that. I mean, a serious shouting match, and it was echoing. And I thankfully I was in a different. I think it was in a press level, but it was far away. I don't know if anybody knew about it, but that was one of my big blow-ups as an assistant GM. I was defending the flag.
That's good, man. That's good. Defend the flag.
I think I know who that guy might have been. I'm sure.
Oh, I think you all know who he is.
I'm sure you had a little pent-up venom.
No, it's probably a lot, not just a little.
Oh, that's great, man.
He was not as professional as you guys were.
We're utmost professionals.
Believe that.
24/7. Yeah. Well, this is thanks to everybody that sent in these questions. We had a few more, but they kind of we covered all the basics, right? I mean,
mention their names, give them a plug, because people like to see their names in the newspaper.
Yeah, what would your off-season plan be from here? See Tosti2 on Instagram. Create your ideal off-season plan roster. Colin Schmidt. We kind of got into some of that stuff. I think they're going to go out and get a left fielders.
And they got to get a fifth starter, man. They got to get another arm.
And those guys
going to compete.
Fifth starters aren't going to sign right now, right? I mean,
that's late.
That's a Spencer Turnbull type thing late.
Correct.
I think Spencer Turnbull was on Super Bowl Sunday, when that news broke. So think early February, late January for that.
Is Spencer Turnbull still out there?
Spencer Turnbull is still out there. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. Maybe you bring him back. Maybe you get Carlos Estevez on a 1-year deal.
He was damn good for the first couple of months of that season before he blew up.
Then
you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Still some off season to go, like you guys said.
Plenty of time.
Yeah,
this was a fun podcast and a lengthy one.
Oh my gosh, it is lengthy. Let's wrap this bad boy up. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Smell you later, boys.
Smell ya.
The Philly Show is brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Subscribe to The Philly Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like us, give us a review. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and Threads. Find Ruben's analysis before, during, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Find Jim at allphly.com. Find me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and MLB Network.